I'll take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Chris Jones, and I work with the Nova Scotia Virtual School. I've been working as a teacher online with the virtual school for the past 5 years, and this semester I'm taking on the registrar duties for CCRSB for NSVS. So I'm not in the classroom or online with students this semester, but more of a go-between for the different schools, contact teachers, and NSVS teachers, and the needs for between them and their students. So that's a little bit about who I am. I've been using VIA now for a few years as well, so I'm going to attempt to share my screen with you, and hopefully that will give us a little bit more flexibility in how I can demonstrate some of the tools in Google that I think are useful and are exciting to me. First of all, I'll direct you to the email that Eric sent out with the sessions. Hopefully you got this email. And if you click on this link beside my session name, it'll take you to an information block with a link to the session resources that I'm going to access today. And those session resources are available in a Google site that I built and has access to the slides that I would use in a regular classroom presentation, but I probably won't be referring to as much here online since we're going to use the screen share option, and also a quick write prompt and a data chart that we'll work with toward the end of the session. I also, under my homepage, included a link to the GAP homepage. And in the GAP homepage, you should be able to link to this site. So again, if you make your way into the email, connect to my session, click the GAP homepage. This is the bookmark that I use most regularly when I'm working online with Google Apps for Education, because I find it has access to all of the tools that I want in one clean place. My Drive, my sites, my calendar, which I'll talk about if we have a little bit of time, and if you're using Classroom and Mail. So I'm going to come back over here to the site that I built and my presentation assets. And I'm going to start off by talking about the collaborative nature of Google. So if I go to my home drive, and again, I expect that you're comfortable with using the drive. There are a number of options for viewing. You can change the view of how your drive looks. I personally prefer the layout with the one on top of another rather than beside, but that's my personal preference. And I try to keep my items organized. From here you can see I've got a number of docs, and some of them are shared, a lot of them are shared, and you get that little sharing icon beside if they are shared with someone. So if I flip over to my quick write doc, hopefully we'll see that Lael is already in. I've shared this with Lael, and you can see under the cursor her name pop up, and she's got a turquoise cursor. And right now, both of us have access to type in this document. So if I was doing a quick write activity, the two of us could collaborate on this. This is my submission to this document. And then Lael could add on to that. So if you would like Lael, yes, Lael's helping. Great. So we can do a collaborative document this way, which is really great for students to be able to work together on projects. As we saw in the little video that Drew introduced us with, the quick write activity and writing activities in general are a great way to engage students with this technology because they can work together and they can see each other typing. So if you would just type something else and we can continue to see you typing on my screen. So you can see Lael's name pops up and color, and she can add to the document. And I can make comments and edit items that she adds, and she can do the same, right? So if I didn't like that she said I'm helping, they'd say we are working together. Okay, so One thing that I really liked about this as a teacher was once I ended up getting students involved and collaborating on documents together, it became easy for me to comment on the items that they were putting in. So if I wanted to make a comment in a part of this document, I can highlight a section that I want to comment on, and I can add a new comment. So I've highlighted this area, and I'll just do that again so we can see. I've highlighted the text that I want to comment on, and I've got some comments here that I tested before. This is a comment, and I've resolved this myself. But if I wanted to add a new comment, I click on this little comment feature, and I can say, this is great, but where is your citation to support your work? And so I can leave that comment, I can leave that comment, and Lael would see that comment. Now, if Lael opens up her document the next day and she's working on this and she sees that the teacher's left a comment, she can resolve the comment by clicking on the resolve button. So if you would, Lael, resolve this comment for me, or reply, you can leave a reply and then select it as resolved. So Lael would see on her document, hopefully, yes. Oops, where do I find the MLA rules? Great. So I can send her my bookmark to the MLA rules that we had, right? We can say www.mla/.com, whatever. So that would be a link that it doesn't exist, obviously, but if it was a real link, she'd be able to click it and go right to it. Now, if you resolve that layout, if you click resolve to that, it would disappear. And so I found when I was working with students that immediately, if they saw these comments pop up, they wanted them to go away. They wanted them to be resolved quickly and successfully. So if Lael did go ahead and do a citation for this and it was correct, then I wouldn't need to add another comment. Or if I thought that maybe Lael didn't quite get it the first time, I could go back in and add another comment. Not quite there yet. Let's schedule a meeting time to chat. So we schedule a meeting time to chat. She sees that. Maybe she will select a time and send it in a reply to me. We can meet at 10 a.m. Then the next time I know that she's going to be in, I can see Lael's logged in, and we can have a chat in this box right here. How's it going, Lael? And she can type back, and we can have real-time conversations about her research, her document that she's working on. And as a team, we can collaborate with this. You might be saying to yourself, okay, I do this in my classroom live. I'll walk over to Lael's desk and I will talk to her about what's going on. But the thing that I like about this is that there's an asynchronous feature where when the students leave the classroom, the comment is still there waiting to be resolved. They can access this during a lunch hour, or if they're away on a sports trip, or after school hours if you're available to chat. And for me, being an online teacher, I don't see my students in a physical classroom, so I rely on these kinds of synchronous conversations in these kinds of chat boxes and these asynchronous conversations with these kind of comments to be able to help them with their research and help them figure out where they need to go ahead to get on to the next thing. So I'm going to come back over and I'm going to stop the screen sharing because I think at this time you don't have access to see the comment box. So if you'd like to leave a comment in the text box or a question, you can go ahead and do that now, and I'll flip through a few of these slides and then we'll go back into screen sharing to take a look at something else. So if you have questions, you can type into the text box and Lael will field those questions as I go through a few slides. So again, we looked at the Google Drive view. There's a folder view, there's a list view, and a share view. And we saw that the little share person was beside documents that you were sharing. We can do all the things that we need in Google Drive, just like we do in Microsoft, right? We can do documents, we can do slides, which would be the PowerPoint equivalent. and we can do Sheets, which is the Excel equivalent. We took a look at a little bit of that collaborative document, and if we were in a live classroom together physically today, I would have everyone share their GNESPES email and collaborate in this document. So if anyone who is in the presentation now has a GNESPES email and would like to have an opportunity to try this collaboration, please type your GNESPES email into the text box, and Lael will add you as a collaborator, and you can type into that document when we go back to my screen sharing. Again, we talked about feedbacks, comments, and resolves, and those resolutions bring up email notifications. The only thing with email notifications is there is a bit of a time delay. Thank you, Francois. Lael will add you in there. The time delay for feedback is a little bit slow. So you can see in my mail app, I don't have a new mail yet to say that Lael had resolved that comment. But eventually, within the next 30 or 45 minutes, I should get an email saying that that comment has been resolved. And again, we can see that the comment comes up with the little resolve button. I didn't point out, and I will when we go back to the screen share, that you can, as the teacher or as the person who's made the comment, edit the comment. So if you decide that you've added the comment and it doesn't say exactly what you want, you can click these little 3 buttons beside the resolve, and that gives you the option to edit or delete if you decided again. Look at in our quick writes at revision histories, and we'll take a look at this when we go back in, be added in. We can also take a look at in our quick writes at revision histories, and we'll take a look at this when we go back in to my screen share in a moment. And if we go under file, we can see revision histories, and it brings up a little sidebar that tells you a time and a user who has made comments or made revisions on a certain document. So again, I'm going to come back over to my screen sharing. It takes a moment to load up, and we'll take a look back at that document. And Francois should be in by then. Francois, if you can go ahead and just start typing into the document. We'll see Francois in a moment. I'm guessing she's the purple icon. The Canadians. Great. There's Francois. She's in. Perfect. So Francois is in now, and she can be a collaborator as part of our document as well. Let's take a look at the revision history. We can flip over to revision history and see all of the things, all of the items that have been added, all of the work that has been done. And if we wanted to, we could click back to the original and restore to this version, or we could maintain the current version. But as a teacher, it's good for you to know that this is here for 2 reasons. One, I can look and see, has everyone participated in an equal way on the collaboration of this document? And 2, if a student were to accidentally stumble upon this and revert back to this restore version, you'd have an idea of what's happened at least and where things have gone. So here we are. Oh, sorry. Excuse me, Francois, my mistake. Francois is a man. Apologies. My face is red, Francois. I apologize. So this is one of the items I guess I should mention that I deal with online teaching, and I haven't been with students this semester, as I mentioned, and often I get names without gender assignments, and it's hard to know which pronouns to use, and therefore I have been in this situation before, and will probably be in this situation again. Great, thank you, Francois. So again, I like the collaborative element here, and if we were to add in the conversation, Francois should be able to add into the chat box as well, type into the chat box and add on. And in Francois's screen, he would not see this initial message between Lael and I. He would only see things that are added after he has been invited into the conversation, into the chat box. All right, great. Well, let's flip back over here to the Google Drive, and again, back to my home drive. A couple things that I also really like are documents that are shared with me. I can see all the documents that have been shared by my colleagues with me on this and with my students. I can also take a look at ones that are most important to me, ones that I'm working on currently, ones that I need. So it's a great way to organize yourself so you're not sorting through reams and reams of documents. So we've done the quick write. Let's flip back over to my site. And I would direct you to take a look at, if you've made your way into the site, to take a look at the data chart. And if you open up the data chart, it brings open an Excel style spreadsheet in what Google calls Google Sheets. And to get out of Sheets, to get to Sheets Home, so I can see all of my Google Sheets that I'm working on, this will, clicking that button out of my global stats in this top left corner, will take me to just a drive view, if you will, of just my sheets, which is kind of an interesting way to be able to view. So flip back in, and you can see I've got a small table made up here with some global stats from 1990 through 2000. So one of the things that I really liked for this collaborative idea is that instead of having students write research papers, I started to ask them to create sites, Google Sites, with their information on it, things that were a little bit more dynamic. So one thing that we can do with this is we can highlight all this information and we can insert charts. And this is nothing new. I'm sure you've inserted charts before with Excel. But one of the charts in here I really like. And if you scroll all the way down to the other section, you can use the motion chart. The motion chart is very interesting because it is not a static chart. It is a dynamic chart that shows motion of change. And I can set all sorts of different indicators of change and see things. I can select countries to highlight, so when I can monitor the change of certain countries within my data chart. So these are great tools to be able to access more dynamic look at research. And I don't want same color. I want population. So let's insert it. So here's my lovely chart, and I'll pull it. Oops, let's see if I can pull it out of the way a little bit. Okay, well, it's out of the way enough that I can work with it at least. So again, we can see that if I hit play, I can see the change of those different countries, and I can track change of those countries. And it gives the students an opportunity to see things in a little bit more of a dynamic way. But it's great in your Google Sheets. But I want to be able to bring it into my presentation, right? I want to be able to add it into my project. So what I can do is, if you click on the chart, this little pop-down button pops up. This little drop-down button pops up. And in here, it gives me all sorts of options. I can advanced edit, I can delete, save, copy, move, whatever. But I want to take a look at the publishing options. And if I look at the publishing options, it gives me all sorts of things, including a link, which is great. Links are good, but I want to go a step further and embed. So if I click on the embed option, it gives me the HTML code with the iframe information of this chart, right? So I can copy that information, and I can go to, let's go to a new tab, and I'll go into my NSVS course, my NSVS Moodle course that I use. So let's go into global politics. And this is a course that I've taught in the past. And if you use Moodle, this might be interesting to you. I know we're talking about Google here today, but I want to demonstrate that this is a cross-platform option. So if I use Moodle, I can go into my code. And one little trick that I learned when using code, I'm not a code reader. I don't really know how to use code that well, but I'm interested in code. So I'll use things like stars, asterisks, in places where I know I want to drop some code. So I pasted that code in, I update, and I save. And when we go back to my main page, voila, here is my interactive chart right in my lesson, right? And I can do that in lesson pages. I can do it on the main page of my course. I can put it wherever I want. So that's one way to do that. But you may want to bring this into your Google site, right? So again, Google Sites, creating new sites. Well, let's take a look at creating new sites before we add this in. So maybe I should, I feel like I should come back here for a minute and stop. And can we still use the chat box when, Lael, can we still use the chat box when we're doing screen share? Can you confirm or deny that for me? Yes, we can? Okay. Great. So we can continue to use the chat box, so I'll go back into screen sharing because I think that this is a much better way to do this kind of a presentation, to be able to see exactly what it is that we're talking about. So here we are back into my screen. You can see it from my homepage, my Google Apps for Education homepage. I've got a link for sites. So if I click that, it's going to bring up all the sites that I've created thus far, and I can create new sites. So if I wanted to create a new site, there are galleries with templates, and you can spend an inordinately large amount of time looking at templates and trying to decide how you want your website to work. For this, I'm just going to grab one and pop it in. And I'm going to name my site, we'll name it online presentation example 1. And you can see that it takes that name and adds it to the end of this string of information. So if we were going back to our conversation earlier with the MLA resources, maybe I would add a site or create a site in Google with a whole bunch of MLA resources, including examples and links to citation creation sites, et cetera, all on one site that the students would have access to. And it would be accessible via an address like this, sites.google.com/a/gnezpes.ca, and then the title. So if I was doing titles, maybe I want to keep my title really small, right? Maybe I want to keep it so that it's really simple, EX1. And then it's really simple for them to remember because every teacher is using Google Sites and they just have to remember this last little part. So let's create this. So we've got a new site being prepared in Google, and one of the features that I guess is good with Google Apps for Education is that it's a lockdown secure system where things are really easy to manipulate and really easy to add in. But the downside of that is if you're a curious person like I am and you want to play with code and you want to try and add in elements that are from outside of Google, it can be a bit of a challenge because they don't really want you to break in. So it's kind of like I would equate it to using a Macintosh or an Apple computer as compared to a Windows computer. With Windows, you can do a lot more fiddling with the way the settings are, whereas the Apple infrastructure is a very closed lockdown system. And so is this Google Apps for Education. So I'll flip this open. I just click on the edit page button, and it brings me into an editor, and I could change all this information. And you can see here that there's a Google Gadget. So let's flip out and see what it looks like. It is a chart, right? And it's not the chart that we want to use. So let's see if we can add in our chart. What they've done here is gone to insert and used gadgets, some kind of Google Gadget. And this one's called Include Google Gadget Iframes. So that's what we actually want to use. So let's go into the settings for this Google Gadget iframe. And can we control? Oh, it's connected to a URL outside of this site for their example. So it's not what we're going to use. So we can delete this and we can pop in our own at the end here. So let's insert an HTML box. And in the HTML box, I can drop in my code. You remember my iframe code from my global stats information that we selected. And hopefully, when we come back over to example 1 and save this, it'll pop in my code. Now you can see here that it did not drop it in. And this is one of the items that I talk about when I say that it's a closed infrastructure, that you can't do all the things that you think you might be able to, right? I should be able to drop in an iframe code in an HTML box and get exactly what I want. But it doesn't look like that's going to work for me. So maybe I have to go and use this chart information, grab my thing here, and it's got my chart from my sheet that I've made, right? And I pop it in, and now it'll work this time. So I can use the embed code outside of Google, but inside of Google, they really want you to use the things that are within. Okay, so let's see if we take a look at preview as page viewer. Do we see it? No. Failure. Okay, so let's see if we can troubleshoot this quickly. We'll go back to edit page and we'll see if we have to change some information. So it says it's loading here. And again, this is one of the items that it doesn't really like. So maybe if we build the chart ourselves, maybe this is what we need to do. So again, we'll go to more, we'll go to motion chart. Okay. Now we've built this chart in here. Maybe this will like it a little bit better. And there, it works now. So one of the things that I think you need to think about as an online educator, as an educator who is moving toward using online tools like Google Apps for Education, is the way of thinking in that problems need solutions, right? So if you run into one roadblock, it doesn't mean that that's the only thing that is there, the only solution, right? If we look around, there's usually other solutions that can be selected to solve problems. So that's an interesting item, I think, there. So we've taken a look at publishing your chart in Google Sheets to your site, to Google Sites, which is a great way. And you can see now I can move this chart around. I had that little hand icon pop up and it gave me the option to move it. So come back over to my presentation assets. Those are the three items that I had prepared for my presentation. And if we were doing this in a live meeting, we would spend more time doing the quick write and seeing how the feedback would look. Let's take a look and see if my feedback from Lael has arrived, and it has. So if we take a look, there it is. I see that I popped in, she popped in, watch me go. This is great, but where's your work? She says, where's the rules? I pop this in, she's resolved it again. So I get this little Google record that shows me all of the items that we've gone through together. Okay. So let's take a look a little bit deeper into Google Sites since we have a little bit of time, and then I'll demonstrate Google Calendars. So again, if I wanted to, I've got my page here that I'm working on, and it's already created a number of pages in this site for me, right? And if I look at the sitemap, I can see all the pages. So if I wanted to do any more editing, again, I can flip back over and look, there's a calendar right there that we can publish to, and we'll take a look at how we publish to a calendar in a moment. But if I wanted to edit any page, you can see that there's a Google document here. So again, when I open this up, I click on the gadget, whatever the gadget is that's in here, and I can connect it to a Google document. So I'll connect it to our quick write, and then we'll see the quick write that Lael and I were working on. This one here is another iframe table that we would have to add a URL in to get it to add in my document. So I might blow that away and I might put in my own table or whatnot. And then looks like this is some kind of Wix template information here. So let's take a preview of this. Yeah, so it wants to send me to Wix to start making, so that must be an advertising thing. So I may want to get rid of this because I don't want them using Wix. I want them to stay in Google. So again, if I wanted to insert other kinds of things, I can insert options for forms. So forms are a really good way for you to be able to evaluate or have students ask questions or ask questions of your students. So I have a course evaluation form here, and we'll pop it in and take a look and see how it looks. So here's my evaluation, right? In efforts to improve my teaching practices, I request feedback. So I asked them to give a name, and I do want to know who it is because it helps me to frame up my information. Maybe you don't want to. Select which course they're taking with me. Next semester I was teaching ACS 11, Multimedia 12, and Law 12. And then how often did you check your email? How easy was it for you to reach your teacher? What could have been done to improve feedback? So you can see I can include scale type answers. I can have multiple choice type radio buttons where they select one. I can have text boxes, and there are options for you to add in other kinds of questions as well. And that gets submitted into your Google, and I was using this before I had a GNESPES account, so if we flip over, can we flip over to my other account? If we flip over to my other account, we should be able to see this form available. So if we search feedback, your questionnaire, course evaluation. So here's that course evaluation, and this is what we get, right? I get a timestamp, I get the information, I get the look at, and I love that also when I scroll, the questions stay at the top, so I don't have to be wondering. A nice chart and a nice sheet that I can manipulate, right? And I can take a look at, and I love that also when I scroll, the questions stay at the top, so I don't have to be wondering what question I'm reading. But this information is really helpful for me to be able to evaluate where we are. Oh, look at this. This is a good opportunity for me to talk about Dave Edgar's The Circle. I feel like since this is a big Google love-in, that I should play the devil's advocate and just bring to your attention that full integration into one network and one source has its problems and can have its issues. And The Circle is a fiction novel written by American novelist Dave Eggers, and he very pointedly examines these problems and these issues that may occur with total integration. And if you haven't read The Circle and you're interested in Google and Google Apps for Education, and if you want to get your students involved with Google Apps for Education, and you have the opportunity to read The Circle with your class or as a book report or a book read with your students, it's a great way to actually have them think about issues that they're going to be addressing and dealing with in using Google. So I won't give it away, but I strongly recommend this as a read. All right, let's flip back. I'm bouncing around a little bit. I think I've got about 10, 15, 20 minutes left. So we've added in this element, this form, but you can see it doesn't fill my whole section, and I don't like that. So I'm going to see if I can edit that. So let's flip in, and you can see I can change the width of that, or I can leave it empty for 100%. So I think that's what I'd like. I'd like it to be 100% of my site so that it looks nice and clean, right? So again, now it's a nice clean look, and it's got its own little scroll bar, and they can leave this. Again, what I would do, and what I've done in the past, is have students use sites as a way to create their own presentation of research. And let me see if I can find, well, this was a document. Do we have a site one that was made? No. So in the past, I've used Google Sites to have students do something different. Let me just see if I can find one to show you, because they turned out quite nicely as a way to present research instead of a written report. Written reports can become stagnant. They can become slow. And I think that this is a much better way for students to be able to present their research in a dynamic fashion, right? Including videos, including charts that are dynamic, including their sources and citations, and elements that hopefully will be a little bit more dynamic. All right, let's see. Let's flip into here and see if there's anything else that we want to insert before we flip out into Google Calendars. Oh, the map. Yes, this is the other one. So I teach history courses, Canadian history, African Canadian studies, global politics, whatnot. And in history, we often want maps. We want to use maps, right? So again, a nice thing that to insert is a map, and I can put in, a location. Paris is on my mind this morning because of the terrible events that took place there last night. So I'll drop a place marker in Paris and select Paris for my map. So if I was writing about Paris and about the events that were unfolding, a map here would be nice so that my users can click in. And again, this is a dynamic map that we can zoom right into, areas in France, just like any other Google map, but in a dynamic way for students to feel like they're not just presenting static maps, right? What they're presenting is real. Yeah, okay. And we could get a real live view or the map view. Beauty. Okay, I think I'm going to come back over now and we'll take a look at Google Calendars before we finish up. I think this is a good time to look at Google Calendars. So here's Google Calendar. If I come back over to my launch page, you can see again, Calendars is one of the main launchers. So I can flip into my Google Calendar, and Google Calendars automatically open up the week view, which I don't really like. I prefer the month view. So my calendars, right now I'm using this calendar as a way to collaborate all NSVS teachers, eChat times together into one place. And what I did was I created a site. And you can see one of the things that I don't like about Google is that it opens a new tab every time you click something instead of just flipping back to a tab that may already be open. But that's okay. So here is the little site that I made. Oops, cancel. Let's view it as what it would look like to someone coming into my site. Nice and clean, right? Doesn't have anything extra. I've got the Nova Scotia logo, I've got the title of my site, and only one page, and it's got the calendar built right into it. And this calendar is one that's collaborated here. And what I asked my colleagues to do was to create their calendars and to send their calendars to me as an administrator, as an administrator of the calendar. So if we take a look at, let's see now, we take a look at the share settings, you can see that Tina, my colleague, has made me a collaborator on this calendar so that I am able to do this. I'm able to post it up onto a live site. And as each of the teachers add their eChat dates in or whatever, it will automatically populate into this link, and students can check this link for their eChat times, or contact teachers can check the link for their eChat times. I can also see this as a great tool for students to use to be able to schedule appointments or presentations with you, right? So you wouldn't necessarily have to give them collaborator rights, but you might be able to give them access as a contributor. So if I go to the sharing of this calendar, I can enter the name, and I can say they can make changes to events, right? And they can manage sharing. But I think in this, I just want my students to be able to make changes in events. And if I add Lael's name, L-A-E-L, Lael Ginespez, there she is. I can add her in, and Lael should be able to access that calendar. Now, there's a lot of information on this calendar right now. And if I don't want to see all that information, I can turn all these calendars off. Right? And as I take away the colors beside these calendar titles, you can see that all that information is disappearing away. And I should see just the Chris Jones calendar now. Now, if Lael was to open up that link and add in a date, we would see it populate live in my calendar. And she could, schedule a meeting time with me, or she could schedule in her presentation if she wanted to do her presentation next week for whatever. And then that way, if all the students were added into the one calendar, I might create a calendar for my course, right? So I might create it as English 12, and then this is to book presentation dates. Right, so I can have them come in, book their presentation date here, and when they come in and see that that calendar has, and I'm just going to cancel it because I don't actually want to create that, but when they create those calendars, they can go in and see, oh wait, my classmate, 4 of my classmates have already booked in for next Tuesday, and I remember Chris said that there would only be 4 presentations in that class, so I'll have to pick another date, right? And they can't change it, they can't delete anything. They can just add into my calendar. And if I don't like it, I can delete it and then talk to them about that. But I can make those calendars available, again, like my eChat calendar here, in a simple site, right? In a simple Google site that has no other pages, no other information in it, except for that calendar. And that calendar can then be made widely available via URL to your students, to your colleagues, to whomever, as a shareable calendar. Let me say thank you very much for your attention and your attendance to my presentation today. I hope that it illuminated some options in Google that you haven't seen before, and that it gave you a taste of something that you might be willing to try in the future. Go read the Dave Eggers novel, The Circle, and thanks for coming out today.